Hey everybody, it's Jen. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I am going to do a video that has been sitting in my brain for a long time. I'm going to share the 6 things I see people consistently do wrong on airplanes. I hope it's helpful. I hope you came here because you want to be the best passenger possible, and I'm so proud of you for that. Or maybe you just wanted to come here to commiserate because you've also seen these things done badly. But yeah, let's dive right into the list. So before I start talking, you need to know I fly all the time. I fly for work. I fly for fun. My dad was an airline captain. My husband is an airline captain. I have been on airplanes my entire life. Most of these things I see done wrong every single flight. Every single flight. One of them, if you do it wrong, you'll wind up in jail. Okay. Most of them, however, are just kind of etiquette, common courtesy, all that kind of stuff. So I have a very extensive list. So we're going to try not to have this video be an hour and a half long, but you know, I got words. So the number one thing that people do wrong when they get on an airplane is, you ready? They crowd the gate area. Now, some of you fly airlines that have this like set up in a very orderly manner, like Southwest. I predominantly fly Delta. And it's just kind of the honor system, right? They're just kind of assuming that you're not going to crowd the gate area unless it is your boarding group or at minimum one before your boarding group. But it happens. It happens every single time. And people will be standing up with their roller bags waiting to get on board. My group is called, and because I am a frequent flyer, I'm usually kind of in the upfront group. And I'm asking people who are crowding around and I can't get through, is this your boarding group? And they're like, no, I'm boarding group 3 or 4 or whatever. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? So unless it is your boarding group or the boarding group before your boarding group, I don't want to see you anywhere near the gate area. You should be seated, or if you're standing, because I get that, I like to stand before a flight, you should be standing well away from where people are trying to get on board. Not only is it rude, it is extremely difficult for people, for instance, who are using wheelchairs. It's difficult for elderly people. It's just poor form. Just don't do it. Don't crowd the gate area. Number 2 is about your carry-on luggage. Now, you know, if you've watched the channel at all, I am a girl who does carry-on only. I love carry-on. I have no problem with carry-on. Bring those roller bags right on the airplane. But for most airlines, what you are allowed is a roller bag or a suitcase and a personal item that is within the regulations of your particular airline. I can't answer that for you. You have to check with your airline on that. But what I see people do wrong almost every flight is, no, I'm not even going to say almost every flight, every flight. They put their teeny tiny Louis Vuitton bag in the overhead compartment and then they want to have their feet free. Don't do this. It is so incredibly rude. Overhead space is at a premium on aircraft. And if you do that, other people cannot put their roller bags in the overhead compartments. You'll hear the flight attendant say this over and over again. The overhead compartment is for larger bags and roller bags, and the seat in front of you underneath is for your personal item. Now, this just happened on a flight I was just on to Mexico. The flight we were supposed to be on was canceled. We got on at the last minute, and there was actually room in the overhead, but there wasn't because there was a tiny little leather satchel up there. I can be a little forward, maybe because I've grown up around pilots and flight attendants, but so I'm not recommending that you do this, but I actually said hi to the people seated in that general area. Can I ask whose little brown satchel this is? And this very kind man next to me, who was in the seat next to me, said, that's mine. And I asked ever so politely, would you mind putting that in front of you underneath the seat so that I can put my roller bag in the overhead where it belongs? Would you mind? Would you mind? I said it nice. He was like, oh, of course not. It all worked out. We ended up having a lovely chat as we were landing. All was well with the world. But just don't do it. It's rude. It's inconsiderate. The overhead bins are for the roller bags and bigger pieces. Underneath the seat in front of you is for your personal item. Thanks. All right, let's move on, because I'm going to get mad about that if I think about it too much. Number 3. Okay, y'all. If you're in economy, don't recline your seat. Just don't. My one caveat for this is if it is a very long flight and sleep is part of the equation, if it's, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 10 hours, okay, fine. Otherwise, I don't want to see you reclining your seat. We already have very little room, and when you recline that seat, you make it really miserable for the person behind you. I think about that scene in Last Holiday. I feel like I quote that movie a lot and reference it a lot, but it's a great movie. When Queen Latifah is in economy and that person is crouching on her space, you have all the right in the world to not be okay with how tight the aircraft is, but you're not punishing the airline when you recline the seat, you're punishing the person behind you. Now, if you glance and the person behind you is a toddler, go ahead. If you glance and there's an empty seat behind you, oh my gosh, recline away. Have a party back there, I don't care. But if there is someone seated behind you, please, please, to be courteous to everyone, do not recline your seat. Okay, thanks. Please. Just don't. Just don't. Okay. Number 4. Now this is about the lavatory. And there's actually 2 parts to this. The first one is don't use the lavatory when the flight attendants have their carts in the aisles. You will hear them say this, and I'm going to touch on flight attendants again in a minute. But the reason is it's very dangerous. It's a huge pain in the neck for them. I don't know if y'all have seen how hard these flight attendants work, but let's not make their jobs harder. If you realize that nature is calling and you stand up and you see that there are carts in the aisle, just if you can, hold it. We all have emergencies, I understand, but if at all possible, do not be in the aisles when the flight attendants have the carts out. Just try really hard to time that well. And while we're speaking of the lavatories, if you go to use the lavatory and it is really bad, let a flight attendant know. They really do want to know so that they can take care of the situation. You're not bothering them if there's garbage all over or the toilet, for God's sake, isn't working. If you don't let them know, you're just punishing the next person that goes in there and tries to use it. So please, in a polite way, let them know so that they can address the situation. And of course, and I know you learned this, so we don't really have to talk about this, but just try to leave the bathroom at least as clean as you found it, if not cleaner. That's just nice community rule of thumb when we're all together and we have the one teeny tiny bathroom. Just be polite, like your mama taught you. There you go. The next thing is all about the flight attendants. And this is the one that if you do it wrong, you'll go to jail. I've seen it happen. Now, I don't know what happened to the person. I have a feeling they can't fly Delta Airlines anymore, but we've all seen the videos, right? Where the person is harassing the flight attendant, isn't listening to the flight attendant, is violent to the flight attendant. Flight attendants are not your drink servers. They are actually there to protect you. That is their primary job. And I'm sure you have heard a flight attendant say this. If you've ever been on a flight, it is against federal law to disregard crew members' instructions, okay? So if you do not listen to them, you can go to jail. And not airport jail, jail. Like, it is a federal offense. It is against the law. So listen to the flight attendants. Do not harass them. And I even saw one video where the person was like, well, that's the captain's decision. Let me tell you, as a person who knows a lot of airline captains, if the flight attendant says the authorities need to be called, the authorities are going to be called. They are not going to wait to try to determine what the situation was. The flight attendants are in charge, and your butt is on their plane. So they are the boss of you. And if you don't like that system, then don't fly on an airplane. Thanks. This next one, and this is the one I'm going to end with. This is the one that gets me the most heated. I mean, other than being rude to flight attendants, which there's just no excuse for that. I know how hard these people work. It's just the worst. But anyway, you shouldn't be rude to anybody, right? But I digress. So this next one is all about how we get off the plane. And these are words that I have had up here for a while, so I'm going to try to be really nice. And I understand that we are all battling things that other people don't know about. People fly sometimes because of medical reasons, or someone has died, or they're going to a job that they hate. So I get it. And if you've ever done this next thing, I don't want you to have any shame. I just want you to kind of think about it. Let's have this be a when we know better, we do better situation, okay? Because this isn't about shaming anybody. I mean, unless you're not listening to the flight attendants, and then I'm okay with that. When we get off the plane, it's just like in kindergarten. We get off in our rows and we take turns. Now, if you have a connection and you're going to be late for your connection, there are times when I understand this, but like if you fly out of a hub, like I fly out of Atlanta, everybody's trying to make a connection. There was only one time that the go row by row rule was broken and that in my view was justified. And I was on a flight and there was literally someone traveling for a medical reason. I'll never forget this. The flight attendant came on. I don't remember the seat exactly, but she was like, "Hello, everyone. When we get to the gate and you hear the fasten seatbelt sign go off, please stay seated. I have a passenger in 23D that has a very tight connection for a medical reason. So please stay seated until that passenger has left the airplane." Bravo. Bravo to the flight attendant. Everyone did what they were supposed to do and all was well with the world. But I don't know what it is about people when they hear that little beep that tells you you can get out of your seat, but you act like a pack of wild animals. Just stay in your seat until it's your turn. Do not try to muscle past people. Do not try to push past. I saw a woman my last flight just about get knocked over trying to get her bag from the overhead because the guy behind her was in such a hurry he had to get off the airplane. If it is that important to you to be the first person off the plane, then pay the upgraded fare and get a seat in the front of the plane. You're going to wait. You're going to take your turn. You just are. And it is absurd to me that we put up with this from our fellow passengers. Now, I'm not advocating that we be rude to people who are doing this, but there are ways with your body language that you can ensure that your entire row is going to get out in an orderly fashion and that nobody is going to push their way past. And if you're in my row, you've seen me do it. I basically, it's like a football move. I'm basically like standing up when the row in front of us is gone. I'm standing up. I'm standing in the aisle. I'm backing up. I'm letting everyone in our row out. I'm making sure everyone got their stuff from the overhead. It's a whole thing because for years I would allow myself to be bullied in that moment, right? Where you feel that guy behind you. Maybe it's not a guy. I'm not trying to be sexist about the situation, but they're like doing this. And it's like, sir, you doing that is actually going to slow me down. So just don't. Just stay seated until it is time for your row. Allow the people in front of you to get their things from the overhead and to peacefully get off the airplane. We're all going to get off. And then one more caveat on that, and this is something that if you are kind of an anxious flyer, I'm probably going to do a whole nother updated video about dealing with anxiety when you travel. I did one on it already, and I'll put a link to it right here, but I kind of want to, there's more things I want to say. Shocking. If this is really an anxiety point for you, book a window seat, because if you book a window seat, you can just get off the plane when you want. Like you can sit there until everybody else is off the plane and then you can get your stuff and just leisurely roll it off. It is a stressful moment, and some of us don't necessarily on any given day have the energy to fight the maddening crowd. So if it's a huge issue for you, the window seat is your friend in that scenario, but don't feel bad taking the time you need to get your luggage and get off the plane when it's your turn, okay? Don't be bullied. Don't be bullied on an airplane. All right, that is all I have for you today. My next flight is in 3 days, so we'll see if once again I see any or all of these 6 rules be broken. Have you ever seen these things happen on a plane? I'm guessing you have. Comment below. Tell me your story in a nice and respectful way, remembering that everyone's going through stuff. We don't know what kind of day somebody's had, but gosh darn it, we can all be better passengers. I have faith in you, and I know that your next trip can be beautiful and lovely, and that you, because you watch this video, won't commit any of these 6 deadly sins of airplane passengers. Maybe not deadly, but you know, could end up in jail, so it's important to know. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure you give it a big thumbs up, and I would love to have you here. So if you watch my channel, if you like my videos, if you want tips on travel and organization and all the things, please subscribe. It really is so important to the growth of my channel, and whatever you're doing, I hope you're finding joy. I'll see you next time. Bye!